Hi, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. And this is The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast.
This podcast is all about taking action and creating that badass business abundance and life that you want.
Where we share stories, laughs, wins, and epic fails to show you the whole picture of the entrepreneurial journey.
It's not just unicorns and rainbows, people.
Jump on and follow us through this raw and witty roller coaster,
where we get down and dirty and go behind the scenes of life and entrepreneurship.
Get on it,
get over it,
and get after it.
Hi, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. Today, we have another incredible guest in our sales journey. This is Christine Campbell Rapin, and she's here to talk about the elegance, simplicity of business, and give us a little truth telling about how your business processes and sales systems are going to work. So welcome to the show, Christine.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Oh, we are too. And I know that, we had a little chat prior and you've worked in many industries and you really help with client acquisition and conversion, as well as high paying ticket clients, which I'm super stoked with because we haven't really had anybody on here that talked about this. And so I'd like to just know a little bit about first before how you got started in sales, because that's a specific niche.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I actually grew up with an amazing salesperson for a father. So I sort of always was around it. I grew up, my dad is old school, obviously, and his handshake was everything. And I used to go on sales calls with my dad. I watched him build relationships, and I watched him fight corporates of, we made a deal because I shook my hand, and the integrity of sales. And I never really set out to be in sales. I set out initially in my career to be in marketing. And I kept saying, so what? Okay, it's beautiful. So what? Looks great. So what? And they kept saying, well, what the heck are you asking? I'm like, why does it matter to the other side of the table? And that led me into, maybe you should be the one to answer that in front of other people. And that led me into the sales journey early in my career. And yet what really brought to the table for my skill set was, it really wasn't about the numbers. And, let's be clear, you do get what you measure. But to me, I always said to people, if three things are happening, we know our business takes care of itself. And that's someone saying, hey, I got your name from someone else. It means my reputation's good. It could be that they say, I've got an idea, which means I'm not just an order taker. I'm a thinking partner. And when someone comes to me and says, I'd like your perspective on something, knows that they recognize we're not talking the immediate win. We're talking about the relationship. How do I look after? Yes, I celebrate new beginnings all the time, but I want to know where we're going. And I want to be viewed as someone on the journey with you. So my early sales career started because it was just inherent of the gap where I watched people, really focus on the wrong things and said, sales is the oxygen of your business. You can't outsource this effectively. You've always got to recognize you are always in a relationship and you're always in a collaboration that's leading to a result, and successful results is ultimately what sales is all about.
Love that. And I know that this, just from kind of chatting with you earlier, I know that we're going to be full of one-liners. I love one-liners. I already heard a few that I'm going to be pulling from there. And I do have to ask, as parents, Amanda and I ourselves, mine are mid-20s. Amanda's is a little bit earlier. However, I was just having this conversation earlier with a client, is like, I love that you said, like, you grew up with a great salesman, right? Your father. And so I want to ask you, like, how much of those 3 points did you take from your father, and, or what's the biggest lesson do you feel besides the handshake that you learned from your father in growing up in a sales family, we'll say?
100%. My dad's in my head all the time, and I'm very grateful for that, to be fair. The other, for sure, the integrity piece is my number one core value. And I definitely took it from, the mentorship of both of my parents, which were, only you get to decide at the end of the day if you showed up in integrity and you made good decisions. And he said, my dad used to tell me the story, all of my life decisions happen when I'm brushing my teeth, and every big reflection happens in that moment. And he always says, before you go to bed at the end of the night, you need to know, did you do well by people today? Did you show up with your potential? And did you treat people with kindness? what kind of leader do you want to be? And he always used to joke, because I'm very lucky. I've got a formal education in business, 2 degrees in it. And so I learned the formality, but he said, the education's not enough. Experience is what matters, because people do business with people, not with books. And he always said to me, leaders, there's 3 types. At every leadership level, the risks to person get higher, which means the crowd thins out. What kind of leader do you want to be? Do you want to be the kind of leader who, number 1, gathers facts? The second type of leader can interpret the facts. And the third one, who can execute based on what your facts tell you, even when it's not a popular choice. That for sure has been one of the biggest lessons to me, because I always challenge myself. Building a business can't be built based on when it's convenient. You've got to decide what the non-negotiables are. And you can choose any speed you want to travel. However, when you're in that place of non-negotiable, it's not just I'm thinking to get ready to do something. It's I've got to go do something. Mm-hmm. And how do I want to do it? How do I want to build my reputation? And what do I stand for? It's probably the number 1 question I ask my clients when they first start working with me. Who are you and what do you stand for? And that's not a title. It's not a salary. It's that piece of person that you can't duplicate. You can't use AI to get it. You can't, sound like just like everybody else. That piece is really important. And my dad always said, you've got to look in the mirror and hold your own gaze.
I love that. And I feel like your dad and I would be best friends.
Right? I was thinking the same thing.
Dancing partner too. So if you want to need a dance floor anytime, my dad's your guy.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, a good handshake. I feel like that's the first thing my father taught me, was a good handshake, the value and the importance of your word and integrity. I feel like we would all be BFFs for sure.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And what I love about that, before I switch it back over to Amanda, is that, and this is something that we both have spoke about, not just on our podcast, but in our books, about like really keeping it old school, like keeping it simple, keeping it fundamental and foundational. And essentially like, and I use this analogy all the time. When we're in construction, first thing is we typically learn to use a hammer or a screwdriver. And just because you learn how to use a big bulldozer or a chop saw, doesn't mean that you stop using that hammer. That hammer is still essential to your business. And to me, those basics fundamentals are so important, and they get lost in all of this like bright lights and shiny and overstimulation. And really, like, people are not building and utilizing just the fundamental tools that, 1, make us human, that 2, connect us, but 3, also that build a great sales aspect of your business and build a better business. And I absolutely love what you just said. Absolutely.
So what do you think? So we talked a little bit about, before the show, we were talking a little bit about the foundations. How important do you think building and building those foundations are, and what would you give somebody as a suggestion in order to start from the right place?
Yeah, I think the reason you struggle and you think it's hard, or you think nobody will pay your price, is all just noise, because you haven't looked after the foundations. And I think there's 3. I keep life very, very simple. And it doesn't matter whether you're just starting out and you're trying to build a pipeline and you're trying to grow consistent client growth, or you're someone who's already had momentum. And what's happening now, particularly for that group of audience, is they're waking up going, what used to work doesn't work anymore. Wow. Okay. Continuing to throw more at it, and that hard work philosophy, is dangerous, because it's not getting the results you want. And I say, when the results are either uncertain or you don't know how to create them, the how is the easiest bit to solve. It's knowledge, and knowledge is everywhere, but it's the application that is often the gap. And for me, the first thing I remind people is it's not about leads. Okay, this is going to be controversial, but I'm going to go there. It's not about leads. Business 101 says, go to the market that is already moving and money is exchanging. And the goal in that place is audience building. You need to turn the audience that is already spending, already has a known need, already has urgency, and already has a commitment to movement towards you. And so, that's the shift of audience building, where you become the must hire from the choices in the available market. Most businesses skip this step and they go straight to leads. And I said, okay, well, I work with high tickets with many of my clients. So how many people can you really serve based on your current business model? There's a cap. How many hours do you really want to work? I don't want you just building the business. I want you building the life you want. And there's a gap. So what would I do if I got brought you 1,000? Because everyone will tell you they can bring you hundreds and thousands of leads. Qualified, that are ready, they want you, not so much. And usually there's people who've spent a ton of money before they realize that. And so I think audience building is the first essential piece. And I tell people, if you've got a good pipeline, 50% of your time is still on this. And that's where they miss it. They don't. They stop audience building and they create this artificial peak and valley. And they wonder why I'm white knuckling my revenue or my profit and where I'm doing the deep dive. Like, when's the last time I make an offer? I don't know. Well, that's a problem, because two things predict your revenue: how many people you're meeting and how many offers you're making. But audience building for even an established business is still 50% of your day in, day out. If you're new and you're not seeing consistently, or what's worked in the past doesn't work now, 70% plus is on this. Stop all the noise. The noise is distraction. Conversations, getting that audience to turn towards you is everything, because it is what creates the movement. The first movement's what leads to the second. That's how you build momentum. And I think for people, they get lost in this and they think, well, it's social media posting. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you have to be visible in the right room with the audience who is already at a decision making. I call them the middle lane of the slow, middle, and fast lane of clients that you are building and nurturing around, because that's actually how the conversion piece moves the fastest. And audience building is missed. And when they say, well, I want to scale more, I said, then the answer becomes, I need a team, I need a budget, I need to do ads, I need to do all these things, I need a complicated funnel, I need landing pages, I need email sequences, I need SEO, and it's all these very complicated things. I'm not saying there isn't a time and place for those. I would say when you're at $1 million and you've already figured out how do you audience build, that works for you consistently, where your commitment is non-negotiable, and then you've got the right messaging in the offer, because at that point, scaling needs automation. But before that, you are spinning in circles, wasting time and money.
So many nuggets in there. Like, I'm about to jump out of my skin. So many nuggets in there. And one thing that I love how you gave the different parts, and I'll just make a couple of comments on that is that, and we've spoke about this in some of our other podcasts, but you do talk about like knowing the people in the room, having the right audience. So it is really important for people to get very clear on who your target audience is, because otherwise, like, you are kind of like shooting in the dark. And you mentioned that earlier, and I think that that's really important. And I have this conversation so many times, and we'll take the scalability out, because absolutely what you just said in the back end about like hiring people, then the automations and all of that, like, people throw around scalability and scaling like it's just like it's over bastardized word at this point, like, and people don't really understand the meaning. And so I think that was really important. However, you talked about like, even when you are eating or feasting, right? Most people are still not talking to their audience and not continuing to nurture them. And it's this whole feast or famine type of, and you said the artificial dips and valleys, or valleys and whatever. These, what are these?
Peaks and valleys.
Peaks and valleys. It's late here. And I love that, because I cannot, like, I have this conversation so many times about like, you cannot stop having conversations just because you have a client load of people right now. Like, you still have to nurture, you still have to have those conversations, because otherwise it is going to be this extreme ebb and flow until you start to understand your own systems and try not to grab at everybody. But there were so many nuggets in there, so many nuggets. Amanda, I know you have something you want to say around that too.
No, I was just saying I think it's a big part of what people forget. I have a couple of clients right now who are struggling with building their business, and they always come to me, well, I need to fix my SEO. I need to make a funnel. Like, I heard about ClickFunnels and I need to do this. And you like, actually, I feel like you need to pull back, because you don't have any people to see any of those things. So you need to build an audience. You need to create relationships with the people you currently have and build upon that and collaborate and find other things. But it's because there's this buzzword out in the world that, oh, all I need to do is, put out a Facebook group and then everybody will funnel into that, just magically funnel into that. And you're like, well,
Crazy.
you've forgotten that there's a step that gets there. There is the audience building. And I'm so glad you mentioned audience building, because I think there are a lot of misconceptions are out there right now about how you build your business. And because everybody wants this get rich quick scheme, and you can get rich quick. I'm not saying that you can't do that. It's just, you have to build the foundations and have that audience and have somebody, like someone to work with. Otherwise you're just throwing your ideas out and just into the air and hoping somebody picks it up on a whim. So
yeah, I call it the Kevin Costner Field of Dreams business strategy. I'll build it, they'll come. Except for fields of crickets is what you have instead of this beautiful thing you imagined. And I've been there. Okay, so I speak from experience. I was there. I spent a ton of money building courses, launching it to nobody. And the thing that I learned late in the game was also do what I know, which was the marketing piece. Was I marketing my business? Was I marketing myself? Was I getting out there? And we talked a little bit earlier about, why do I work with high ticket? I always tell people, and people think high ticket's the answer to scaling. It's not. Okay. Yes, it's maybe faster revenue, but it's not a scaling strategy if it's all one-to-one delivery. But what I love in the audience piece, and I say demand generation is marketing, and most people miss it. They go straight to the leads, which is a sales strategy. I said, okay, if I can get the audience to turn towards me, I get them moving towards me. I tell people every single day, I never hunt for clients. I hate the whole philosophy of it. They are not someone you chase. You don't hunt them. I look for problems to solve, ways I can contribute, and people I can serve. And so I'm out there with a very intentional visibility strategy, which doesn't mean you have to be on every social media platform, but you do need to decide to get visible. And I like, because of who I like to work with, low-tech strategies that have high touch and high impact, which means conversion, high conversion, because the right people are moving towards me and stepping away from the crowd towards me. They are speaking, networking, and events. Why do I like those three? Well, one, you can do them right away. Not complicated. Second thing is they're all experiential. And a person who is either a high net worth individual or someone who's going to invest thousands of dollars with you isn't going to do so because they found a $7 thing. Let's stop that rumor that's out there, because it's not true. What they want to do is experience you, because while they're experiencing you, they're checking the following. Are you capable of leading them to where they want to go? Are you credible? Do you walk your walk in both good and bad times over a period of time? Because they're going to work with you for not a nanosecond. They're going to spend quite a lot of time with you, which means they're also deciding, do I like them? No like and trust factor comes back again. And as they are deciding this, they're starting to build confidence that you're the must hire if you make an offer. Don't forget, you have to make one. Okay. But so you're working this nurturing, and they keep moving towards you. And then guess what happens? They show up and they know your program by name. They've done a lot of research about you, and they already say, I see your value. So you're not convincing here. You're saying, tell me what it is that you see as valuable. What's the result you want to achieve? And you're assessing, do I have the skills, capacity, and capability to help you? If so, you open the conversation, the sales conversation of, this is what it looks like to work with me to achieve where you want to go. Why is that desirable now? And it's a really different way to grow a business. And I said, I have helped hundreds of companies, probably created $1 billion in revenue over my career to date. It's simple. But if we shift from leads to audience and we get clear on our message, which is the second really important piece of this, my comment on messaging, I have 2 quick tips. Number 1 is don't speak from the place of enlightenment. Jargon, enlightenment, what your peers in your community are doing, it's not going to help you close more sales, because your client isn't in the place of enlightenment. Your peers are. Where your client is in the dark, lost, confused, uncertain, that they are really, really drawing the line in the sand, maybe for the 100th time, saying, I'm done, I got to move. Your goal is to connect in messaging in the dark and to say, I see you, and to start letting them see you. And that's such an important piece. We describe the problem, but describing the problem isn't how you convert sales. I want to know I'm in the right room, and that's because we're in the dark together. And you want to start hinting that staying in the dark is optional. And if you need a guide out of the dark, here's what makes me uniquely qualified to help lead you there. And that's that leadership piece of my dad in my head. And when you do that very articulately with the heat, the language, the emotions, they start to move. And then when I said they pop up into visibility, the conversion is so high because they've already decided, I know, like, trust you, you're the capable guide, and I'm done. I can't stay here anymore. And hopefully you feel it's the right fit. And if it is, you make the offer and you begin a great relationship. That's what business should feel like. I know for many it doesn't, but I am on a mission to change that because it's that simple, not effortless.
Absolutely. And oh, man, again, so many different little nuggets in there. I used to belong to an organization and owned a franchise and was COO for the global side for a little while. And we taught a lot of this, a lot of what you're talking about. And essentially you are building the relationship, like speaking in their language, which I think is an extremely important part that people forget. I cannot tell you how many times I've had that conversation too. And then allowing them to buy, like it's the tipping point. So there is work that goes into it. And you made an analogy earlier. I think we were off the podcast about the beautifully built Chanel outfit. I won't butcher it. But with that being said, like things can be not as complicated, but you have to put forth the action and the mechanisms in order to do it. And that way they can buy with ease, and just following the steps that you are and taking out all of the bright and shiny and really building the relationships. And it's interesting, like having you on the podcast, and we've interviewed lots of different people, and you can feel the ease coming from you, right? You can feel like that comfortableness, like the confidence, but not in a cocky way. And it's just a very like, you're highly skilled, you're highly accomplished. And even though you've put in a lot of work to make that happen, there's still an ease to what you do and a beauty to what you do. And I hope that that's not it's definitely not in a disrespectful way. And I hope that you're not, you
Not at all. It's a beautiful compliment.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. And I think it's a great thing for our listeners to hear and see, if you're watching the YouTube channel, that it can have that ease. It doesn't have to feel forced, and it definitely doesn't with you. And yeah, I know you're speaking our love languages here for sure.
If you are a service-based business, remember, people do business with people, but the key to it is that, for a high ticket client, is you're more than the widget. Okay. You're the thinking partner. So you do hope. First thing they do is borrow your confidence. And then they say, can you help me be confident? Yeah. With my skills, I know I can, but you can't see it for yourself. This is why you do need thinking partners. I said, build it, they will come. Been there, done that. Really extensive journey I learned from. But now I know I need thinking partners because I can't see my own blind spots, nor can you. So work with some people around you to help you identify them, and then choose, it's up to me to bridge the gap. There's a lot of ways to do that, but the decision should be non-negotiable. I must bridge the gap to get to where I want to go.
Absolutely.
And please go make fun when you go bridge that gap. It shouldn't have to be heavy, hard, shouldn't require working 24/7, and certainly shouldn't cost you your soul. Please stop doing that.
No, I think it's so important that you brought up earlier that if it's the right fit, then you make the offer. And I'm not sure everybody caught that, but just because you're having conversations with potential clients doesn't mean they're necessarily the potential client that you need or want. And it's so important to be okay with not making an offer if you aren't the solution for them, because that's, to me, the epitome of inauthentic selling, when you're just trying to get the sale because you don't care about the person or the problem. You just want the sale because the money's coming in and you want that commission. I think that's what a lot of people assume that sales is. But if you're doing it the right way and you're doing it with integrity, it is about finding out if this person is the right fit, if your solution is the solution that this person needs for their problem, and then making the offer and making it known how you can help them and making it clear to both sides. I think it's okay to not take on a client, and it's okay to say no to a sale if it's not right.
100%. And this also comes down to, if you know that you have a good audience building strategy, you don't panic when you say, I'm not the right fit. When you don't have a good audience building strategy, you do get into desperation, and desperate money never moves. Desperate money never moves. I want to always, when I make an offer, I've intentionally chosen it. 2, that I'm making it, and 2, that I know I can really help. And if not, I go back to, what else can I do to be of service? Because I'm still wanting to aid and support and create impact. And so I'm thinking, honestly, I might be giving feedback saying you're not ready, or I can want it for you, but it's not enough. You must decide. And I know I made that learning along my career journey of mentorship of people where I wanted it way more for them than they want it for themselves. But I'm still looking at, how do I connect you? I could connect you to a community. I could connect you to resources. I can invite you to new things. And one of the great selling strategies, and why we go back again to experiences, is I always have an experience people can come and interact with every month, usually 2 or 3, because it allows them to sit in the audience and start to build the confidence. Because the first time you make an offer doesn't mean that that's the yes. The interesting thing in my last group of clients that have all come forward between the start of the year are people that I have had conversations with my services around before. They weren't ready, but I'm inviting them to continue to experience me. So when they are ready, we're in a very different conversation. And I have the patience to wait for that, because I know my audience building strategy is always working, and I'm very clear with how many clients I want to serve. And so do be clear. When you say yes and you make an offer and the invitation is accepted, it should lead to happy dance. I'm so excited to begin a relationship with you. If it makes you feel, oh, this is going to be heavy and hard, trust that this decision is one you can unwind, and unwind it right now, because you do not want to be working with a client for 6 to 12 months that every day is painful. I mean, we didn't get out of bed for our businesses to feel like that. So trust your inner knowing there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I do want to add one more thing, and I can't believe it's already time. And you ladies both said that they might not be the right fit for you. Your business might not be the right fit for them or the solution. Or you might not be the particular, if you're personally working with them. So just keep that in mind, audience, that sometimes we are not the right fit for them as well. And I think that that's really, those 3 points are really important. And, I always loved, is it a no for today? Is it a no for not now? Not now, or is it a permanent no? And if you're truly audience building in the proper way, the majority of those people it's a not now, not a no for good. And so I think that those are really amazing points. These times fly by so quick. It's incredible. Any last tidbit, maybe we didn't ask something that you would love to throw in there before we ask about how people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, I think the most important thing I would say is that you've got to decide it's non-negotiable. And I said, we talked a little bit about convenience. We talk about whys, and it's something that's obviously very well known. I mean, I've actually met Simon Sinek when he first started this crescendo of the movement. You've got to decide that being of service is non-negotiable. And when you struggle and get into self-doubt and you're uncertain, I want you to just remember one thing. This is my nugget. Just remember you're a human being. Because if you're alone in the dark and there's only 2 of you, your client, prospect, and you are simply called as a human being to test help. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to sound everything in order, but just be called to be a good human. I think what makes me great in business, why people choose to work with us as a community, us as a company, spend time in our ecosystem, is because we always remember conversations are what moves our business. The humanness, please put it back into the business. It's not corporate, us versus them. You are your business. show up as a human being, and remember that is the most important attribute you bring to the table. Everything else you can learn, but you started being human. Just leverage it.
Yes, love that. Okay, so tell people how they can get a hold of you.
So you can find me under my name, ChristineCampbellRapin.com. And that's where you'll find my whole ecosystem. You'll find great events, resources, interesting tips to help you on your journey. Come and spend some time with me. That's where you'll find me.
Love that, Christine. Amanda?
Just thank you so much for being here and giving us all this information. I always feel like I need to go on sales calls like immediately after I do a podcast because I am so inspired by everything you've said today. So maybe I will. Maybe I'll go right now and
go do some follow-ups. The energy's great.
Yes.
All right.
So thank you so much for being with us here today. We really appreciate everything you said. And if anybody is looking to connect with Christine, we have our show notes. We'll have all information there. So you don't have to worry about how to spell anything. It'll be right there in our show notes.
Absolutely. Till next time.
Get after it.
All right, everyone. It's not enough to just listen.
Now you've got to put it into action.
We are so excited to see what you do next.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review on iTunes.
And to find out more about what we're doing, visit us at thepursuitofbadasserie.com.